Welcome back to Brews and Business. In today's episode, we have a couple fantastic guests. Now, we're missing Chance and Abel today. Of course, they're busy growing their businesses and working very hard on those, but we will see them next week where we'll be discussing with Harley Litchie of Get Better Bookkeeping of some financial tips for business. Be sure to check out Brews and Business Podcast for all the latest merch and things that we've added, including the can cooler, the official can cooler, the Brews and Business Podcast, little can cooler, can glass, whatever you want to call it. And then we've got some notepads and a new announcement. Thanks to Gregorin Coffee Roasters based out of Owasso, Oklahoma. They have offered to, and we've partnered with them to be there to be a part of their coffee roasting business. They are the official roaster of the Brews and Business Podcast. This is their Ethiopian blend. The Brews and Business blend is set to change. So just because of you ordering something this month, and it could be Ethiopian, next month could be Nicaraguan, the following month could be from Colombia, and so on and so forth. So you're going to experience and try some new stuff. You can go to brewsandbiz.com and you go down to the shop section. That's where you can order on Gregor and Coffee's website. Use code BREWS for 10% off your first order. Mason, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing good, my man. How about you?
Oh, fantastic. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I'm glad to be back on the podcast. Glad to see you. And
am I mistaken? Has it been a couple of years?
It's been, I
don't think it's been that long. You've been on since then, right?
Yeah, I think it's been maybe a year. I think probably a year.
A lot's changed in a year.
Tons has changed in a year.
Man, we'll catch up on that too. And so with our special guest today, Andrew, how are you, sir?
Doing well, man.
Glad to have you here. Now you're friends with Mason?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Cool. So we'll catch up a little bit about how you're doing this year. Anything substantial happening or?
And tons, everything's going on. Where to start? I mean, the thing I'm the most excited about is the pivot in my coaching personal development business. I mean, that's the thing I'm most excited about. I'm might be getting engaged soon and things like that.
Oh,
but as
congrats.
far as, yeah, thanks. Yeah, man. What's going on with me is the main thing I'm really passionate about is the coaching thread line of Survive to Thrive. That's not necessarily the business name, but that's kind of the thread line of the way I'm going about it, because in the coaching space, I've gotten very, very close and gotten to know a lot of the individuals that are doing it well, and then gotten a lot of visibility about a lot of individuals that aren't really who they say they are. And so in the last 3 years, especially after losing my father, when I lost him, I realized that I felt nothing. And at that point 3 years ago is when I realized I really needed to dive deeper on myself and go learn more to be able to teach more. And the last 3 years has been probably the most amount of growth I've ever had in my entire life in 3 years.
Well, that's good. And you said you're in the personal coaching development space. So do you work with what kind of people or industries or whatever kind of thing to work with? Like, what's that like?
Everybody. I mean, what I do, the psychographic is the niche. It's not necessarily the person, because I mean, I don't think businesses have problems. I think people have problems. So I work with entrepreneurs. I work with business owners. I also work with people that have already been successful financially, but want to have more fulfillment in their life, and they aren't really happy, and they really, really want to remove the things in the way of having the fulfillment and living the life that they want versus this life they live that they should live.
Fair enough. Now, Mason, for those who don't remember, you haven't heard of your name before. What are you up to? What do you do?
So right now, still doing real estate. So been doing real estate for a while, real estate investing, and then own a comedy club, the Looney Bin Comedy Club.
Yeah, buddy.
It's been a Tulsa staple for a very long time. Bought that business roughly a year and 2-3 months ago. That's been very exciting. We've had a lot of really cool things happening there.
You've done some remodeling. You've brought in a lot of new people to come in and be on the show, be on stage.
That's right. So the main thing we did is we went ahead and set a different standard than what we had before in the past. So when I purchased it, they had a lot of comedians that were classified at C level. So you have A, B, and C. So C are kind of the newer comedians that are kind of starting out. They may not have a big following, or they did really well a long time ago. Now they're kind of towards the end of their career. The problem with that is if that's all you have, nobody knows who those comedians are. So a lot of people just get a little bored with coming in and seeing something that they can't see on TikTok. And with the rise of TikTok and social media, people want to see people that they're following. And so we changed it and brought in people who are, quite a bit more popular on the Instagram, TikTok, social media, things like that. We did change the layout of the room a little bit. It used to be a 200-seat room. We're now 250 seats. So we added 50 seats without having to move or break any walls in. So that was good. And then we added a green room for our comedians. And the green room is super exciting. They have all different types of snacks, foods, drinks. So that allowed us to get a higher level comedian.
I forgot to grab these. Here. I'll tell you what these are here in a minute.
So
this is new.
So that allowed us to get a higher level comedian for us. So that's obviously bringing quite a bit more excitement. So this week we have a guy named Stephen Ho. He is the tips from the ER guy on TikTok, over 11 million followers, almost 12 million followers.
Wow.
We have 5 sold out shows. Recently we had another guy that's very successful, Shane Smith and Tom Arnold. And then we just have so many other bigger comedians that are coming in, and it's just been a whirlwind of fun.
And so you bought that you came in, bought the business, and what are some of the few key things that you did from the start? Where you're like, we had to do X, Y, and Z.
So when we first bought the business, like I said, it was lower performing business. So for any change that we made, it was going to be a big impact. So one, we wanted to change the branding of it. We didn't want to change the name because our customers know the name. It's a staple in Tulsa. So we had to keep the name, but we don't like the logo. We also had to change the relationship that the club itself and the name of the club had with the bookers and agents and comedians. Because again, if you are a high level person and you're selling out shows everywhere, you may not want to play the Looney Bin, because the Looney Bin had my dad there last week playing for $300, right? So they want to go to rooms where it's a lot more, respected and more, bigger names come through. So we started changing that process, and then we knew to get the bigger name, we had to have the green room, and the green was just a big thing that we had to change. So we changed those couple of things, and then we just started changing internal things within the business, like how we treat our staff and what we do different.
Drink and food options, was that a big deal or
big thing? Yes. Yeah. So everything's basically been changed. So like, I'll give you an example. Chips and queso was like what you'd get at a baseball stadium, at Drillers, the round chips and the canned queso. Now we make our own chips, we make our own cheese, all of it's handmade versus being all the packaged up. So it's definitely really good.
I'm sure customers acknowledge and recognize that difference as well too.
Yeah.
Have they noticed?
Everybody's noticed. It's insane. So the people that have been coming for years are like, I've been coming here for 15 years and you buy this thing, and Mason, it's completely different. We're having, have a lot better time. We're enjoying it. And they're not even saying things about the comedians. They're saying, hey, it's a better space. It's more comfortable. It's nicer. It's cleaner. Everyone's, having a good time. No one looks depressed, because that's the thing.
That's interesting. So back to Andrew a little bit. What are some things that you're really focused on accomplishing in 2024? Is there anything in particular?
What I'm really focused on is growing this new pivot I made in the coaching business. I mean, I do other things as an entrepreneur, but this is the thing I'm the most passionate about, because in this last 3 years, I really discovered a lot of new things when it came to coaching. And I've been doing it for 7 or 8 years. But, when I lost my father, there was that real emptiness. And I mean, I was a coach. I was coaching people. I mean, and there was a lot of this psychology around. I was almost kind of afraid to admit that, like, I was in that place. But what I'm really excited about is the things that I've learned, the things I've developed to show people, because in the coaching space, you see a lot of people that have these cookie cutter programs, right? And they were programs that if the person actually designed it, which a lot of these coaches out there, they don't, they copy and they just regurgitate stuff they've seen. I develop all my stuff based on my experiences. And I'm always a person, I love to kind of get down to like simplify things, like what's below it, like what's the thing below it, and because I believe that's where everything comes from. So what I'm excited about is showing these new things, and with my new client base. And like, for example, I had a call with my client and his significant other yesterday, and it was one of the best gifts I've ever received in my life, to be able to sit and facilitate a conversation between them two, because I mean, I can't share a lot about it, but to see what happened in that conversation and the breakthroughs they had, the connection they had, the improvements they had, like, was one of the most amazing things I've seen in my entire life. So with these new skill sets that I've acquired by going through them with my own experience is what I'm really excited about, because back to that cookie cutter coaching program, I'm more custom, and I find out what's getting in the way for most people, and I don't mitigate the problem. We solve it at a core level, right? Because you have people that I experienced for a long time. I would be coaching people and I would tell them what to do. Like my coaching, if I'm being transparent, years ago was more ego-based. Like, I enjoyed giving them those aha moments. I enjoyed giving them those really cool lines and saying those cool things. But what's really separates, I guess, good coaches from elite coaches is facilitating conversations and facilitating answers from within the person you're coaching, because they have buy-in to it. They're connected to it. And that was the big oversight for me and how I coached before. So I'm really excited about this Survive to Thrive, because the tricky part about this is most people are in survival mode in one way, shape, or another, and they don't know it. And the really tricky ones are the people that are really financially successful, that use their financial success to justify that they're thriving, but they're emotionally just crumbled. They're in a bad place. They're not showing up for their families. They're not happy, and that's really what I want to focus on, because I have tons of business knowledge, business tactics and strategies and all those things. But my opinion is businesses don't have problems. People do. And I love connecting with people. And that was another thing that really, really showed up for me after losing my father, is what was really important to me. And after buying things, after, making money, losing money, going in debt, getting out of debt, after I lost my father, it put me in a really, really interesting place to figure out, like, what's really important. And what I found for me is people are my paradise, right? I've bought a boat, I've bought toys. And if your experience is anything like mine, every toy you buy, it's really cool for a little bit of time. And then after time, it wears off and you get used to it. And so what I've found is connections with people and relationships are the things that the more you invest in it, the more enriching they get, the better they get. And so that's what I'm excited about, is just teaching people those things on a core level, because I think most of us are living the life that we should live versus the life we want. And I think that's the real big pivot for me, is when I lost my father and felt nothing, I realized I was very disconnected from myself, because the majority of my life I spent it doing things that I felt like I should do, very unconsciously, right? Chasing jobs, chasing connection all the wrong ways, drugs and alcohol, and we can get into that a little bit, but I was chasing a life that I felt like I should have. And when I lost my dad, I realized that I never asked myself, what do I want? And that was the big shift that I made. And then here I am now. And
what's the journey like for somebody that you work with?
Man, it's very different. But the traditional journey is we start working together, and then I go through an assessment with them of like, hey, we design this ideal life, right? And then we work for a little bit together, and then
Is it kind of like you manifest it and going through some of those practices?
How do you mean?
There's a book I'll show you. Man, I should have brought it. I didn't think about it, but
Think and Grow Rich?
No, it's a black book, and it's a game. Devin, what's that game called? Do you remember? Dude, Devin's got it too. We were supposed to do it together. We haven't done it yet this year, but you basically every day is a new day, and you start over on a new game. Or it's almost like if you ever played like Call of Duties or something like that, where you play campaign mode, right? Or play a video game where there's campaign. There's like new missions. So every day is a new mission, and you basically set a goal, acquire that goal, and then you get points. And at the end of the campaign, you add up your total sum of points. And in the beginning, you kind of go through a process of, okay, if I hit this range in points, I get this. And so there's a little bit of like a reward factor at the end of the campaign. So you go through the whole book, and it's pretty cool. I'll show you.
That is really cool.
I need that right now. That's amazing.
I'll do it with you.
I'll do it with you. Yeah. I'll kill it.
Well, what's interesting about that is my coaching's a little different, right? Because we're all built on this reward system, and that can get dangerous if we're doing it from a misaligned place. And so when I start working with people, what we really work on is alignment, right? There's alignment, ownership, and integrity, right? Those are the three core things within the coaching program that we really focus on. But what I do is a little different, right? I think as humans, we all have kind of like a top three things that are really getting in the way of the things that we, that cause us to make mistakes or go into debt or whatever it is, or cause us to have roadblocks in business.
I remember. It's called the Reality Hacker OS. And there's a whole community around it, and a way to be able to keep accountability with other people. Like, again, where you acquire those points, there's a place for you to be able to submit that in the community.
Oh, cool.
That's great. Yeah. Send me the.
And then there's upgrades in the game that you play, and you just buy the book and you play the game. And in the game, there's certain stages where you can acquire points and then upgrade your abilities to do certain things. And again,
interesting.
You preface all of this kind of ahead of time. So you kind of like what you're saying, you build the life that you want, and not the life because a lot of people feel like that they're in a rut and they're stuck. And they're like, I don't know how to get out. I really don't want to get out. I'm kind of comfortable, but I really wish I could. And just forget about it.
Right.
So for those who do pursue personal growth and passions, that, I think this would be a great book. And I think you can buy it on Amazon. It's like $13 or $20 really cool. Or something. Yeah. There's a basic training course to teach you how to play the game. It's this whole thing.
Wow.
It's cool.
That's cool.
All right. I'm about to look into it. I think it's definitely piqued my interest. I think it's unique. I like the idea of, people really working on becoming healed, because healing is the hardest part. We talked about lunch. Andrew and I talked about it a ton.
Yeah.
About just healing, and being able to live life from a healed spot, not a broken spot, because you become more proactive instead of reactive, and life begins to change for you, and things begin to grow, and people become contagious around you, and it just creates this environment where people want to be around you because you're happy, and it doesn't matter whether you're
really happy.
because
You're not just
Yes.
faking it. My wife and I were talking about someone that does that. They will be, talking shit about someone behind their back about whatever it is, and kind of have this really toxic relationship with people behind their backs and stuff, and then come out and just be, oh hi, and then every day like they're happy, but behind closed doors, kind of going to the story that you shared at lunch, behind closed doors they may, have some sort of substance abuse or something like that, and they're unhappy and they abuse their wife or their kids or their husband or whatever it is, So to really authentically, going back to the part of that too,
Yeah.
like be happy,
Well,
and understand too that life does this. Like you're not always just going to be, you're not always going to have those dopamine hits to where you're like constantly having to have something, and that's probably a deeper conversation to have too. But overall, if you can look at your life and be, hey, I'm going to have highs, I'm going to have lows. I'm happy. Like overall, acknowledging that I'm going to have those highs and lows, and just keep pursuing whatever that vision is and those passions that you have, right?
Yeah. I mean, just depending on which direction we want to go with this, because we talked about the risk reward thing, the healing thing. And, what's important for me to talk about around the healing thing is ownership is like my number one core value. Right. And so it's kind of really interesting to have language around like, oh, healing and feelings and all those things, but it's super important. I mean, and you still have to do what you need to do. Like take my story about alcoholism, for example, right? Alcoholism is another conversation about how complex it is. And, most people that haven't experienced it just, have these opinions like, well, did you ever think to stop drinking? And if, like, when someone says that, I'm like, you have no idea. Right. If I I just want to be sarcastic and be like, if I would have known you 20 years ago and you recommended just stopping, like you would have changed my life. Like, that's not how it works. Right. So I've experienced that where it consumes you and there's nothing you can do. But then once I go to treatment and I have this exposure to what I have to accept is that I am an alcoholic. Right. Then I have visibility, and now I have a choice. And so when you can bring this visibility to things that you have and other people's blind spots, that's where I think people get dicey, where like they don't want to play the victim or things like that. But people have blind spots for a reason, and they're blind spots for a reason. But most people guilt and shame themselves for blind spots. But how can you see something that you're not capable of seeing? Right.
Does that go back into like when you talked about alignment?
Yes.
Right. So when there's things that we do, but in the right alignment, it's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the intention behind it all.
That's right.
It's like, are you driving a Lamborghini because you want to impress everybody or because you really like driving a Lamborghini? I mean, if you're driving it because you like it, that's a good reason, because I think you can be humble and drive a Lamborghini. It's like, what are you doing with
I
this
like nice
influence?
shit.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm bougie. I like nice shit, and I don't care if you like it or not. I mean, I like nice cars, I like nice motorcycles, I like going places and doing things, and
I do too.
And most, not everything, but most stuff that's like bougie has a price with it, and there usually is a difference between. I don't know. I got the shirt for $12. I like it. Like
Right.
it could have easily been 150 at a,
Right.
or $3,000 at a Gucci store or something. But
yeah, but to your point though, if you're doing it from an aligned place, like that's where you're winning, right? Because if you're doing it for you, that's a whole different story. But if you're doing it to impress everybody else, that's where you start abandoning yourself and you're putting all your validation, self-worth, and everything in the vision and visibility of other people.
Do you think people are like blind to acknowledge that for themselves on that standpoint?
Yes, absolutely. I think most people are in a pattern of living the life that they should live versus the one that they want. I just think it's very rare for people to have the moments that some of us have had where we really sit back and be like, okay, well, I got the money, I got the toys, I got the woman, whatever, all these material things, and I don't feel satisfied. And that usually prompts someone to kind of work with me or someone else when it comes to this stuff, because when you can start doing those things from aligned place, it becomes a whole different experience. So that's one of the first things we do when I sit and work with someone is we start working on alignment. We start going through, what is it that you want? and then they say all these things that are a projection of exactly where they are at that time. Then I work with them for a little while and we shift some things. We identify these top 3 things that are getting in their way. And then I have them do the assessment again. And it's completely different. So the whole name of the game is start living the life that you want to versus the life that you've been in a habit to do, to try and maybe get some type of validation, approval, or this sense of I'm going to be happy if or when I do that.
Right. Because if you focus on I'm going to be happy when this happens, it never happens.
Exactly. Because it's always in the future.
That's right.
Right. We talked about this a little bit about you, when it's like, if it's always more, if it's always what's next, it's never what's now.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm never satisfied. For real though. Yeah. I mean, like I'm always looking forward to like something bigger, better, greater, you know, always in pursuit of something.
Do you celebrate your wins?
Oh yeah.
Well, then that's different, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I celebrate in different ways.
Yeah.
You know, some ways I'm like, hey, I'm going to celebrate and I'm going to go to bed early and catch up on sleep. Like,
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, in some ways it's like, oh my God, like me and the team are going to get together and we're going to make mimosas or something. I don't know. And we're going to celebrate that we just got a new client. I don't know, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah. I'm not a big celebrator. I try not to. I would like to, but it's just not really it's not why I do it. So
would you celebrate with someone?
yeah, I mean, if others want to celebrate, then we're going to celebrate, but it's not like I'm doing this and I'm going to celebrate. When I bought an apartment complex, my partner at the time wanted to celebrate. Cool. Where do you want to go? That's fantastic. We had a great time. Afterwards, I went home. I was like, okay, what's the next deal? What are we doing? We're not at the finish line. We just got started. Same thing when I bought the Looney Bin. You know, buying a company is 1/3 of what has to happen. You got to get the deal done. And then in the middle, you have to make the changes. And then in the end, you have to see those changes through. So I don't want to celebrate prematurely. If I celebrate prematurely, then I'm going to fail. Now, I expect to fail in some things, right? I want to learn, but I don't want to celebrate out of the gate and just be, oh, we just acquired this. We're in acquisition mode. We're dominating. That's great, but you're going to miss the point of why you bought the business.
Devin, do you celebrate? Do you celebrate your wins?
I'm kind of the same as you. Like I think I'm getting better at it, but I'm not really someone who celebrates. Like I'm just like kind of always looking for the next thing. But I'm also still kind of constantly in search of that, I guess.
Yeah,
I like to celebrate.
I think celebrating is important, and I wish that's an attribute, like a thing that I was about. But I will tell you, when others want to, I want to do it with them to make them feel better.
But you won't celebrate you.
Correct. Yeah, I'm not a big celebrating me type of guy. Not yet.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things that like happens a lot with my clients, is like they're afraid of celebrating wins. And that usually happens when someone's experienced a lot of loss and then they achieve success. The story in the head is, well, if I celebrate, I'm going to go back to that person. But we don't go back to that person because we are a new person.
Or don't celebrate because you're going to go backwards anyways.
Exactly, right?
So why celebrate going forward? Because you know you're going to go 2 steps backwards.
That's the story.
And then you're going to do 4 steps forward and 1 step backwards. So you're going to just keep doing this. Like, why are you celebrating? Because you're never going to get there. Wherever there is never there.
Right. So we're never satisfied when we get there, but we won't celebrate because we're afraid we won't get there. But when we get there, we won't celebrate.
Just celebrate
it's this interesting
the journey.
cycle. Yeah. I mean, but anyway.
Okay, guys, you guys ready to celebrate for me?
Yeah.
You got to celebrate for yourself.
I'll celebrate for you.
Thank you.
What are we celebrating?
I got nothing right now. Celebrate.
You should just celebrate just being a good guy.
We should celebrate that. Yeah.
What was that bottle you said you got?
I have a couple.
What was the
The recent one I got is Blanton's.
okay?
Yeah.
And we're gonna celebrate that win.
Let's
that
do
deal
it.
happened.
Oh, when the deal happened. Yeah, we have a deal. Yeah, we have a deal. I have another
Okay.
deal that may happen. Yeah.
Oh wait.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys bring it out on the golf course?
I'll celebrate that. Yeah, I'll bring it to the golf course. Yeah. Again, I am not anti-celebration. I will do it.
You're just not necessarily the one to initiate it for yourself.
No, that is very true. I'm not a let's celebrate Mason kind of guy.
But we've been taught that our whole lives. Don't brag, be humble. And I don't agree with that completely.
Oh, I don't agree with it either. I just don't think that
We all have our legs.
What's
your sock game like? Oh man, my sock game is so off today.
I got them
apologize.
dull.
I'm gonna hide that.
I got doll hairs on mine.
Mine are
Cheeseburgers?
they are cheeseburgers.
It's like the only day where I didn't wear my office socks or something. I have a whole collection of
These
the
are
office
awesome.
socks.
I like your coach shoes.
Oh, I love them.
I'm
too.
sorry, I didn't mean to go off track.
They're good.
I like your socks.
No, I love
Thank
my
you so
socks.
much.
I didn't see your
Holly's
socks.
my girlfriend's nephew bought these for me.
Yeah, those are dope. I like
so
them.
I'll wear coach shoes, but then these hamburger socks underneath them.
All right,
That's great.
nice.
He celebrated by putting on those shoes.
That's right.
And the socks.
Yeah. I mean, my watch openly doesn't keep time. It's a Ferragamo watch, but I purposely just leave it not keeping time, like I told you guys, because I'm not wearing it to keep time. I'm wearing it because I like how it looks.
I have a timekeeper that'll take care of that.
Okay, so real quick on let's transition over to this if you don't mind, and we'll get back. We can get back on another conversation. Have you heard of the podcast, The Diary of a CEO?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Have you heard of his conversation cards?
I have not.
I bought them. So we just started doing this, and
Let's
the whole point of these is
go.
that they're supposed to empower true human connection. Okay.
Ooh.
Let's do it.
And
Pumped.
I'm going to give you one, and you're going to start off. Okay.
Okay, let me get
And you
ready
don't
for
know what this question is, though.
Oh, so wait, you asked me the
And
question.
I don't know what the question is. You're going to pull the card. You're going to start. You're going to read the
Just riff
card,
on it.
and then whoever can start.
Look at all of our
But we
competitive
all
selves,
three
like,
have to answer. Okay.
sitting up, getting ready to go.
So here's how it works. The defining value that continuously drives humans as a collective, but also the Diary CEO is a podcast connection. Okay. These cards have been designed to empower you and to stimulate raw, honest, and unfiltered conversations like you've never known before. There's 52 cards in here. And so we just started one. We're moving them from the front to the back. So hopefully within a year, we would have gone through all of them. And nobody would have answered the same question twice.
Ooh.
So just top of your card.
Am I the first one?
No, sorry.
Okay.
This is the fourth podcast. I think we've done it on fourth episode.
It's pumped. Pumped.
Yep. So if it's a terrible question, we can move forward.
No, it's a great question.
And who is he asking it to?
It's whoever can answer first.
Perfect.
Whoever wants to.
So I ask it, and
And
any of us can answer.
Yeah, if you want to start, that's great. If whoever's
I'll go
inspired to
last on
start.
this one. I'm curious to hear you guys answer. So the question is, what is the greatest gift another human has given you?
I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't remember an age, but I was very little. You get asked if you could have any superpower, what would it be? You want to fly? You want to be invisible or whatever? And I was like, well, of course, if I had to pick an actual superpower, I'd probably say I'd love to fly. I think it'd be cool. But I asked for the superpower of like wisdom per se, and I would say my mom really helped out with that a lot. Both financially, with taxes, a little bit of business, between her or my grandpa, one of the two, pretty even. But they've both been like very crucial in my life to kind of teach that. Half of the reason that's not really the reason why I'm going gray. That's the last 10 years. So prior to that, I did learn a lot of wisdom from them, though.
That's
Does
great.
that answer the question well?
So yeah, I think it does.
So is your answer wisdom?
The greatest gift was wisdom. Goodness. Okay, so for me, it's what is the greatest gift another human has given you? Man, this is the easiest one for me. It's being a father. It's the greatest gift I've ever been given. And my wife obviously gave me that gift. And yeah, it's the greatest gift. There's nothing better in my life than that. Especially that time in my life when I had my daughter, my first one, Ava, we had to do in vitro, and to watch my wife go through every step of like harvesting eggs and taking shots in her stomach and puking, and even the medication did some damage to her body. To watch her go through that, to give us the opportunity of having a child, was so empowering and beautiful to see, and watch how tough she was. And then when we had my daughter, they do this thing where they do skin on skin, where like you hold the baby. And so I'm holding my daughter, and I got my shirt off, and it's a skin on skin thing. And I'm just bawling for 45 minutes, and I'm making every promise possible in the world to her. And one of the things I said to her, and I tell her every birthday, and I tell my other girl the same thing, is when I held her, I told her that from that moment forward, I would chase every dream I had, because I wanted to look at her in the eyes and tell her to chase hers. And I didn't want her to see somebody who wasn't chasing theirs. And after that moment, my life completely changed. I walked out of there. A couple of days later, I got back into starting business and started doing real estate again and started winning.
You had vision.
Where were you at that moment?
Oh man, it was in a dark place. I had already had a lot of success and failure, and I know you heard the $100 story.
Right.
You know, we had already lost everything down to that last $100, and then even losing it, and you know, having redemption. And I had just started working at a corporate company, and it was just brutal to watch my life slip away from my hands. And I was not courageous enough to take the next step because I was afraid of failure. And then when I held my first daughter, I knew that failure wasn't an option. I knew from that moment forward, no matter what.
I got something to back you up on that. Have you ever been asked, or have you ever thought about, like, when do you become a man?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's interesting. I had a question I was going to bring to this too about that.
You become I've heard that you become a man when you become responsible for other people.
That's right.
You learn to become a man at that stage.
Yeah.
When you become responsible for putting food on the plate, on other people's plates, and a roof over their head and clothes on their backs. And just because you do that doesn't necessarily make you a man, but
right.
Starts a journey.
Starts a process.
That could be a whole conversation in itself. Cause like when I was talking to a client the other day, and I'll answer the question here in just a second, I said, do you remember when you just decided that you were an adult? And what I was trying to contrast is, like, you know, we're kids, we have all these issues, we have these patterns, we have these thinking cycles. Then all of a sudden, the only thing that changes is our expectation to be an adult. But we don't.
The government telling you,
right. But like, so the whole
taxes.
the lens changes, but we don't, and so that's where a lot of that can get very complicated. But that's a whole other conversation. You want me to answer?
Yeah, go.
The greatest gift that someone could ever give me was having a mentor that taught me how to build a relationship with myself. Because I believe that is the most important thing in business and your relationships and life. If you're not good with you, that's where all the chaos happens.
Some people, I feel like that comes naturally. I feel like it comes natural that they, and maybe it comes naturally also maybe because of their environment, their home life environment could heavily played an impact in how they love themselves, how they see themselves, how they portray themselves, the energy they give off to others. Some of that I think is part natural and part environment based. Maybe another factor or two. And I think some people, it takes time and they have to figure that out. And they have to go through trial and error of different personalities or different people that they hang out with or different groups. Or like some people just right out the gate at 12 years old, they know exactly who they are. And so does the rest of the world. And it aligns and they take off.
And I'm envious of those people.
And then there's some people where they're 30, 40, 50 years old. And then finally over a course of experiences that they've obtained, they finally go, this is me and this is who I am. And I love myself for it. And right. I mean,
that's a unique thing that you just brought up, because like I instantly started taking inventory.
As soon as I said it?
As soon as you said it, I was like, what is your relationship with you? Because I'm very hard on me. I'm tough on me.
Oh yeah.
I am rough on me. I am not there. There's no person that can be meaner to me than me.
And you spend every day with that person all the time.
That's got to be exhausting.
Like when you said that, I was like, man, I
relate.
I definitely like, I would say 80-90% of people are going to relate with that. And I think they're going to start questioning, what is my relationship with me? Do I really love me? Do I enjoy me? Am I happy with me? Am I having fun with me? Am I bringing me down? Am I hurting myself? Like that's a deep thing. And I think that is an amazing gift to get from a mentor.
It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. And it's the most rewarding. I mean, you and I've talked about this, right? When we first met and we were playing pool, and I asked you those two questions, right? I said, what if I said this? And I said, what if I said something else?
Yeah.
I said, the only difference is how you receive them.
That's right.
Right. And so I'll be transparent here with my coach and mentor. I spent a lot of money and a lot of time having to learn that if something upsets me, it's because it's my stuff. Right. And that's what a lot of people will argue with. And I'll sit down and show anybody that that's the way it is. But if you're not good with you, then you're very easily shifted. You're not emotionally regulated. You're not that rock in the ocean that, what do I want to say? Can we cuss on this? You're unfuckwithable.
Yeah.
Right. And when you build that relationship with yourself and you're good with you, then you stop putting all this focus on validation from external circumstances where you're chasing money and abandoning your family, or you're chasing alcohol or chasing all these things the wrong way, because the whole thing you're really wanting the whole time is that connection, and you're trying to go about it the wrong ways. But when you do that internally, everything changes. And that's why a lot of my coaching is shifted around that, because that's the more core level things that make people successful. Because like I said, businesses don't have problems, people do.
Do you care to answer? Do you remember the question?
Yeah, mine, greatest gift I've been given is kind of two-part, and they both go to my wife. And one is becoming a father recently. So 7
Congratulations.
months, twins. Yep. Big, just saying earlier, big shift in mindset and everything, and everything kind of that Mason said, just kind of resonating with that. And then the second part of that is just her dedication towards me. Like, even in the times when I didn't feel like I was reciprocative of her, the way she like kind of pursued me, I guess. I'm just so appreciative of that, because in that, I guess I was able to reciprocate that with like pursuing her back. But just her, yeah, her dedication in general.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
love that.
Mason, I want to hear this $100 story. Tell me this $100 story, not the newest one,
So like
but add to the newest one. But tell me the original.
So original. Okay. So I'll hit it quick. So we had the, like I was talking about earlier, there's a point in my life where I was very successful, had a lot of things going on, and out of nowhere, market changes, life changes happen, and I started losing everything. And so far down that we sold the rims on my wife's car so that we could eat. And we were left with $100 to our name. And we go to Walmart, and I was poor and homeless as a kid. So I understand what I need to get at Walmart. We're getting rice, we're getting beans. I have my calculator out, and we get to the register and we go to pay, and it's less than $100. But we go to pay, and we lost the $100. And I had no money left. I had nothing. And so I look at the lady. I said, "Hey, we lost some money. Can you check, see if someone turned it in?" "Oh, honey, this is Walmart. Ain't nobody turning that money in." And I said, then give me the intercom. Let me tell my story. Someone will pay for my groceries at least. And as I'm kind of bickering back and forth, another lady walks by, and she said, "Hey, a lady left her name and her number. Call her, and if you can tell her how much money it was, and it's the right amount, she'll bring it to you." So I call the number, and the lady answers the phone. She goes, "This is Grace." And I just went into, "Grace, my name is Mason. I have nothing. I had $100. We lost it at Walmart. So I'm giving just everything that's going on." And she said, "Well, I have your $100. Let me bring it back to you." So she brings it back to me. And it just started to change my life completely. And at the time, again, everything was bad, but it just really shifted my mind and shifted the state that I was in. So after that point, what I did was I got back on my feet. Things started going really well. We started having a lot of success after that. My mind shifted. My heart shifted. I stuffed $100 bill in my wallet, and my wallet's over on the table. But when things are going really good and I'm braggadocious, and I'm like, "Oh, I closed this deal. I made this money. I bought this business. This thing is going great. Look at what's happening in my life." I pause and I take a moment. I grab my wallet and I pull out the $100 and I look at it and I say, "Mason, at one point you were worth $100 and you lost it. Be humble. Be mindful. Act like you've been here before." And then in the times when times suck and it hurts, it's depressing, your business partner goes a different direction than you want to go, funding doesn't happen, deals fall through, and I'm pissed off about it, I grab my wallet and I pull out the $100 and I say, "Man, Mason, at one point, you were only worth $100. That's it. That's all you had. And you lost it. It's going to be okay. You have more than that now. You're blessed now. Life is good now." And it helps me reshift. So to lead into me what's happened recently, they used $100 and bought something for my kids. So I didn't have the 100 in my wallet. It's gone. I'm like, and I was pulling this thing, I mean, daily, just daily. Didn't have any cash on me. They wanted something. My girls get everything. Everything is theirs. That's just how I work. I'll replace the 100. So I didn't replace it. I started going through some really weird changes in my life that were hard. And I'm bullheaded. I'm like, I'll get through it. That's fine. I'm gonna get through it. It's fine. It's fine. It's no big deal. And I'm not.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
This is fine. It's gonna happen. We're gonna get through it.
What does the fine stand for? Fucked up, insecure, and ease. I can't remember what
I've
those
never
two
heard
are.
that one.
Dead.
Yeah, but
Dead at the end. It's dead. Just dead because it doesn't work. You're not fine. You're dead. But yeah, you say I'm fine. You're just dead because it's stupid. I have heard that, but it's just dead. You're just dead. So I'm dumb, dead or dumb, but it's just, you're just dead when it's at the end. So I don't have the 100 to pull out. I don't. And I'm not even, honestly, if I'm transparent, I'm not even thinking about that. And so I have an incident where I have a challenge with a business partner, and I won't go into detail of those challenges, but something that's rough. And in a very short amount of time, I start having relationship problems with family. My aunt, who I love dearly in this world, she died unexpectedly at 59 years old. Businesses started falling through. And the whole time is like, I got this. It's going to be fine. Though it sucked and I was internalizing it and it hurt, I was like, I'll get through it. And then I get home, go to mow my yard because I'm too prideful to have, pay someone to mow my yard because I'm a damn man. And that's what men do. We mow our yards.
and it's therapeutic. Satisfaction.
I hate it.
Man.
I hate it.
Really, I enjoy it.
Again, I'm gonna
I don't like it.
use the word dead. I'm dead after I mow. I hate it. So I get home and I want to mow my yard. Looks like shit. So I go to mow it. My lawnmower's busted. And I'm like, God, man, what the hell? And then the next day, my daughters want to go to the pool. I have a golf cart. I mean, these are basic problems that people have. And my golf cart won't work. And then I sink $1,600 in this golf cart. And it's not the money. It's the time. It's the pressure. It's like, oh my God. And it won't work. And these things are happening. Then the next morning I get up and I want to go ahead and go and do a couple of things I need to get done. My damn tire's flat on my car. So during that time, my wife asked me for $100. So I give her $100 out of my wallet, right? And it wasn't the 100 that I saved, just a random 100. I give it to her, and she needed it for the cleaners. So we left it for the cleaners, and she was going during that same weekend where the golf cart was messed up. She was going to go to Walmart to go to the ATM to pull the $100 out of the ATM. So during this fiasco, she's like, I went to get you that money and I messed up and I did not pull it out of the ATM. And I was like, where are you at? She goes, I was at Walmart. She goes, I'm going to call up there. I'm going to get the $100. And I said to her, honey, it's Walmart. Nobody's turning that $100. So I was in self-doubt. I was pissed. I was angry. My wife was very trusting in God and trusting in faith. And even though the 100 isn't going to hurt, she felt the need to go get this $100. So that moment I found my tire flat and I'm like, this is it. I'm done. I'm about to lose it. I'm pissed off. This is insane. All these things are happening. And there are a lot of other weird things happening. She's like, you won't believe it. I just got off the phone with Walmart and they have that $100 that I lost. And at that point, I paused and I thought about it. And I started to internalizing what that meant. I believe because I was so mentally and emotionally lost that I forgot about the one thing that drives me, that $100 bill. I forgot about that. And that happening, I believe that was God slowing me down to be like, hey, I'm still here.
And in control.
I am controlling this. You're going to be fine. You need to have patience. You need to have faith. And after that moment, literally the pressure came off my back. It came off my chest. and everything started changing. I went out to my golf cart, started working. I took my car to get the flat fixed. I got a free tire. Crazy things. The business situation handled itself very quickly. All these things just started being processed so quickly. And so it was just a reset for me. So I feel better. I feel just as good as I did the moment that I got that other $100 back. And again, it's not the size of the money, it's the significance of how it's played out multiple times in my life. And now I start looking back and I see this $100 story in my life so many times. And it allows me to now go back, $100 in the wallet, pull it out. When you're being a dick and you think that you're better than people, go back. Mason, when you're self-loathing and you hate yourself and you think you suck, pull it out. You're doing well. You're doing fine.
Wow.
It's not about the money. It's about the principle.
About the principle.
For sure.
So
Yeah,
would you say that's your small way of celebrating yourself?
Yes, that is that when pulling out you're talking about pulling out the dollar, and it's the reflection. It's that is right. And to be fully transparent, I don't believe I deserve to be celebrated yet. And that's why I don't celebrate myself. But I do take accountability and I do take inventory of my feelings, of how I feel in the moment, how I feel in the time. And I reassess and readdress those things internally with myself to make sure that I am in the right alignment with how I believe I should be at that moment.
How do you want to be in that moment?
Well, what I'm working towards is true healing. There is past trauma and past things that hurt, and I'm working towards that. And for the first time in my life, I can be transparent and be like, I actually am. I'm not just saying it. I'm allowing myself to feel. I'm allowing myself to be emotional. I'm allowing myself to even yell sometimes. I'm allowing myself to do these things where in the past I would not allow myself to do that.
Wow. That's like one of the biggest things when it comes to that. Like I talked about relationship with yourself. I've dealt with anger issues. I've dealt with lots of anger issues, right? And one of my proudest accomplishments in the last 3 years is getting those at bay, right? So I can show up differently.
One of my team members, it stuck with me for like the last 2 months. It's when they said it. They're like, "Hey, don't forget to celebrate the wins," and walked out. It was Friday. And I don't know, like I can relate. I mean, I said earlier that I celebrate my wins and stuff, which I think I do, but I don't like to accept them because I'm like, it's going to come back around full circle. I'm going to go back down. Why am I going to like, I don't deserve, I'm not there yet. I'll celebrate when I'm there. Kind of like what you're thinking, and and you may have said this too, just earlier on the podcast. By the time you get there, you're dead, right? It's over. It's too late to celebrate. Too late. You're too old. You're too hurt. You're in a hospital bed, whatever it is. I don't know. You can't go celebrate with your kids out on a weekend because now you're too old and now they're too busy. It's too late.
That's right.
You can't celebrate. Maybe celebrate with the people that you love. And someday those girls that you have, they're going to be too busy. But Daddy, I have kids now. Daddy, I can't go out and hang out with you this weekend because whatever it is, I got sports or, that's just around the corner.
Yeah, I know. That's the tough part.
I got to dance this weekend. I can't, I have the school activity tonight.
I'll tell you this. I've said it a lot. My goal is to give my daughters as much as I can so that other people don't take their time away from me. And I know it's going to happen. At some point, it's going to be over. It's going to be over. I do want to say one thing. I think you celebrate. I don't think you celebrate enough. You and I have some really good conversations. And like, dude, I am so proud of you. So proud of you. You are doing such a wonderful job. I want you to be proud of you.
Thank you.
I want you to high five yourself a little bit more, dude. That's right. We're in the face. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
But like, what's the point, right? Doing all this grinding, money, staying up late, doing these podcasts. What's the point if we won't celebrate a win?
No, I don't disagree.
Right.
My point is just a little bit elongated from where I'm
Right.
at. But I do know where I want to go, and I know what it is. And when it happens, I mean, I'll sell it. I mean, it's going to be a party We're going to have a wonderful time.
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing is like my goalpost, it is not currently shifted. It hasn't shifted in a very long time.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, I'll make X of dollars. I don't have a dollar amount that I'm like, I'm going to do this. I just have a couple items that like I'm checking off as I go through. And so the good thing is like that hasn't changed. Now, how much money I want to make, that definitely changes.
Right.
But there's no excitement. You know, I just told you guys how pumped I was for $100 bill.
Yeah, I got something on that if I can share.
Yeah. Speaking of like opportunities to celebrate, you celebrate at milestones,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in a marriage, you celebrate, some do every 5, 10, 20, 25 or whatever, but you definitely it's 25 years and 50 years. Like, you know, you hit those two, it's a really big deal. I think it's 10, 25 and 50 as like the milestones in a marriage, right? And usually they'll renew the vows and they'll have a little get together and, you know, go forward like that.
But what about all that time in between?
And that time between, you can't tell me.
But we
That
celebrate
that
every
you
year
haven't.
for wedding.
I'm talking
Or
about the
anniversary.
psychology of it, right?
Yeah.
I believe there's a lot about like the energy and like the frequency of like what happens when you're doing that, right? There was a time when it's a couple years ago when things were a little slower and the coaching business when I was pivoting, and I was in my ego a little bit, feeling like I needed to have this or I deserve this. And this person reached out to me to just speak to their team, right? It was a small business. And I was focusing all these things that I didn't have. And I was like, you know what? There's one person that is interested in the value that I have to offer. And I got really excited about it, really grateful about it. And the next day I collected $30,000 the next day, just like
I've
that.
been there too. I've been like,
And
hey,
then-
I need thousands in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I can't, funding's not an option.
Right. And so
And
I just think that it begats more positive experiences when you're in that. Because I
My-
don't believe, go ahead. Sorry.
My great, no, it's okay. I didn't mean to overcome you. So you can go ahead.
Well, I just think that like you guys all know the answer to this. When's the best time to make a sale?
Right after you just got one.
Why is that?
Because you're in the mental space for it. You just won.
Bingo.
Best time to win is when you're winning.
Exactly. And so if you're in the mindset of winning all the time, you're going to win
You're
more.
gonna continue to win. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is something I struggle with too. Like I can be hard on myself, unworthiness, like self-doubt. Those are in my top 3, right? Trusting myself. But I've experienced that firsthand. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. Cause I mean, I'm thinking, why are we doing all this if we're just going to keep doing these things and accomplishing things and then saying what's next?
Right. You like the way that like, I do believe that like if you're winning, you're going to win because it's a mindset. My mindset's just a touch different. I like to have a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are times where if it's too easy, then I get bored. And so then I pile on. And you know, some people call it like self-loathing. But it's like if it's too easy, then I need to add more to my plate to definitely make it more of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I do know people who celebrate too much.
Agreed.
Like, you know, did a deal. And when we first tried to do that deal, everyone celebrated and it fell through. And they're like, well, you didn't celebrate. Well, yeah. Well, it was bad luck that you didn't celebrate. No, the deal wasn't done. You got a signed contract that has an exit clause. The deal's not done.
I agree.
Go back to keep finding new deals. And that's the other thing is I feel in my mindset is that if I'm doing business and I have a goal, and just because I do one small thing, if it hasn't hit the end goal, I'm not going to celebrate and get my eye off the prize. I'm going to continue to focus. So, but I do believe in celebration.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's just a little bit more elongated in business. Now, in personal life, I celebrate my daughters all the time. I mean, we'll celebrate, you know, every little thing possible. With my wife, I celebrate everything. Like it's exciting. Mine's just different for me.
My grandpa would always say there's money out there. You just got to go find it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's willing to give you any amount for anything. Somebody will. You just got to go find them.
Yeah,
You know?
it's beautiful you say that because, like, I'll tell you this: when I first started getting into business in the workforce, and I was like, man, dude, what would it be like to make 10 grand a month? And like, you didn't know anyone. You're a kid. You didn't college. You don't know anyone that makes 10 grand. And then you meet a guy who makes 10 grand. You're like, oh, well, this guy's not smarter than me. Like he makes okay. Mm-hmm. And then like you make 10, you're like, oh man, shit. How do people make 25 grand a month? I don't know anybody. It must not be real. It must be this. And then, you know, you're getting to different levels, so to speak. And then it's like, oh, well, 25 grand. Now I need 50, whatever the numbers are, right? They could be anything, but you can't see it until you have people around you who are doing it. And so for me, very small core group of people just are very high achievers. And so, we're not celebrating, these little mini pops. We're celebrating big stuff. And so I'm gonna keep my mind there.
This year is my 10th year. I've been unemployed for 10 years.
I love
That's
it.
awesome.
This is our 10th year in business. We rebranded for the next decade, all new logos, new swag, like all different kinds of stuff. So many changes this year, all positive changes. We joined the Tulsa Chamber, and they're going to come do a ribbon cutting for our 10-year anniversary, and it's $100. They send out a newsletter. They come out with the scissors, and I'm like, hey,
It's a good deal.
It's more of a bill PR thing for $100. Totally better than spending that on Facebook.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
yeah. So we're gonna do that. That's fun. Okay, so I've got we've got like maybe 5 minutes, and so give me a quick 90-second answer on this question, starting with Andrew. Ready?
Mhm.
Do you just get started, dive right in and go, or should you be prepared first?
I think both, because I think that's a cart before the horse thing for me, because I think some people are really hesitant to take action because they're perfectionists and have to have everything figured out, but all the answers are going to be in the action. But I also think there's a level to be prepared as well. I think it's a combination of both. I think it'd be really hard for me to have one polarized answer on one side. Because,
You know how many people polarize that one answer? Everyone says they just dive in. Almost everyone. Like 90% of people that ask that question, they say, just go right in for it. Don't wait, because if you wait too long, it'll never happen.
right?
Whatever. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, okay, well, if I want to start a landscaping company, I don't just go and buy a lawnmower and register it. I'm like, well, what kind of landscaping services and what kind of homes do I want to offer? And what is my price point? And do I need insurance? Or how much is it going to cost me to run this landscaping company? And do I need any licenses? Is there any permits involved? What are the taxes like? Do I have the sales tax? Do I have state tax? Do I have, am I going to have an employee? Am I going to do it myself? What does the time look like? How much money do I need to generate if it's me? How much money do I need to generate if I have an employee? Like, there's some of that planning. I feel like that for most things, you should have like an idea, and you should have done some initial research and a little bit of planning, but don't sit there and try to, picture perfect it. You do have to dive in at some point, but
I think there's calculated action versus just being dumb and just, blindly doing things with no intention.
I think so many people do that though.
I agree.
Like, I want to be a business owner. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Just go right in. Then they have no clue what they're doing, and they crash and burn, either that or they start causing industry problems where they're just undercutting everyone, or they're struggling, and then they have the struggle story, and it's kind of like, well, you should have done a little research first.
But I think they should coexist, because that's where partnerships are really good, because you could be the one that's like, let's, cross the T's, dot the I's, and have someone else who's like, let's just send it.
Yeah.
And those marry very well together.
A gas to a brake.
Yeah, it's metered.
Mason?
Send it.
Full send it.
Full send. I didn't know anything about comedy business. I mean,
it's a restaurant.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it has food. I don't classify it a restaurant either. To me, I definitely like educated plays, and it's smart, and I think it's really good. But I also have so many people in my life that just won't take a step.
I agree with that.
They won't move.
If I had to pick one, it would be just send it. If I had to pick one, I would pick send it.
Yeah. Because you said pick one. So to me, it's send it.
If I could take a calculated risk and plan and then execute, that's what I would prefer. But if you were like, hey, man, we're moving right now, you want to go? I'm like, oh, shit, okay, fine. Let's go. Let's figure it out.
You are the risk.
What?
You're the risk. In business, you're the one.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one that has to make it happen. You're the one that has to do the work. You're the one that has to delegate. So if you believe in you, then you can make any business work. I full-heartedly believe that. I mean, you could take a dying business and create it into something. You take something that's beautiful and make it better. It just comes down to like how much heart do you have? And I'm not going to say grind, because I think grind is stupid. Mm-hmm. How much heart do you have? We've talked about this before. Can you be up at 4:00 in the morning working and then go to bed at 11 o'clock or midnight just because it has to get done? If you can't, don't send it. If you can, then do it.
The other element is, do you have the skill set of being able to go back and see what you learned from sending it, right? Because that's the element that I think really makes people successful, that if you're going to just send it, make sure you're taking the data away from it and then applying that to your next full send.
Well, that's what's part of your team, though. You do have to have structure. Just because you're sending it doesn't mean that you don't have, accountants, attorneys,
Legal.
assistants. Yeah, you have to. You have to have that stuff in play. You have that stuff in play. It doesn't matter what you go take down.
Mhm.
I know a guy right now who buys businesses and barely even looks at the financials. He just, hey, I just know my team's going to go and they're going to dominate. And just has like this crazy belief. And it's insane. Do I think that I believe the way he does? Hell no. But have I seen him make a lot of money? Yeah. And I'm happy for him. This guy just bought a trucking company in Texas last year, knew nothing about it. And he grew the value of that place by $30 million in a year. That's insane. But he bought a couple small companies, put together. Anyway, so full send.
So I'm kind of doing a little bit of both with the whole satellite location thing that I'm doing right now.
Send it.
I'm sending it, but I'm also knowing the potential reach in the areas before I send it. So, for example, right now I'm comparing Charlotte, Raleigh, and Greensboro. Greensboro has half the number of businesses as Raleigh or Charlotte. Charlotte and Raleigh have about the same. They're each right about 20,000 businesses in the city area. But Greensboro's half.
So perfect.
So initially I was like, I'm going to go in Greensboro. I'm going to send it. Wait, well, hold on. There's a few other cities nearby, a couple major ones. What are those like?
But you sent it on the first one, right?
In
So
San Diego?
you're taking the knowledge from the first one and applying it to the next two. So there's kind of a different delta there that plays into it, because you
100%.
did full send on the first one. And now you have knowledge to grow the first one.
Yep. So now you're just using, like I said, you're using accurate data that you learned. And so like now you have to think those two have 20,000. Which one is the best option? And do you know how to decide which one?
Charlotte. Yeah.
How'd you come up with that?
Ask people in the area, for one, that have lived there for a significant time frame. And then, so I got some of their feedback. And then just some like initial like Google search and just kind of figure out what the areas are like, and using ChatGPT, honestly, and kind of from whatever I find,
what has the least amount of,
and it's been like, what kind of businesses are in these areas and what are they known for business wise? Like, is it all industrial, or is it like, oh, well, there's a lot of retail restaurants, or is, where are the construction companies at? And like, who's our target market, and like which city
did
do
you
they
take
like
competition into factor?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's why I want to go into Greensboro.
But if you think about it,
no
right?
competition.
Like, you really got me thinking about it.
It'd be really easy to dominate that. And I thought about like, why don't I just put an address at each one?
Did you beta test it at all by like doing like an ad to see what kind of traction you got in the geo area?
No, because I want to show up in the area before I run an ad. So if they want to validate me, they're not just being like, oh, it's another out-of-state company. Because if they're in the area and they Google search and then they see that there's something on the maps or whatever there, they're not going to dig into it.
Right.
And if they do, fine, let them. But they'll look at it and go, okay, well, they're here. Cool. Sounds good. I like their ad.
I'm shifting my perspective a little bit on this, because like one of my things is I could tend to be an over analytical person, right? I have to figure all these things out. It's a control thing, right? For all of us. But like one of my credos is like, we're always equipped to take the next step. But if we're so focused on the next 12, that's when we get frozen and we won't send it. So I think I'm more leaning towards the like, just send it, because you always know what you need to do for the next step, and you'll learn something on that next step that'll prepare you for the one after that.
That's right.
That's fascinating. Okay. So, all right, well, you guys, thank you so much for joining. Is there a reason, why someone would want to reach out to you, contact you, ask questions?
Absolutely.
And so what's the best way?
My handle on Instagram, send me a message. I like to have real conversations with people. I like to be accessible and connect with people. And even if they don't work with me or whatever, like my motto is I want to leave every room, every person, every situation better than I found it. So I like having real conversations.
You've done a good job with that here.
Thanks, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Mason?
Go to Looney Bin Comedy Club. That's the spot to be. Check it out. Go get some laughter.
Go laugh. Make your abs hurt.
That's right. Go check out our calendar.
It's a good ab workout.
It is. We have some amazing, amazing talent coming. You've got to go look. Selling out a ton of shows. Go buy your tickets now before shows sell out.
Yeah, what you've done that place is incredible. I mean, you could even sell it like, these nice custom chips and cheese that you're making. Like by the time they're done laughing, it's 0 calories.
Hey, I like it. Yeah, there you go. We're going to do that.
I love that. Well, don't forget that now we have our official coffee roaster of the Brews and Business podcast, where you can go to brewsandbiz.com and get the official Brews and Business blend. Again, the blends will change from month to month. This month, right now, it's Ethiopia, which is a natural process. It comes from Yirgacheffe, Chalbesa, however you say that. Someone will correct me. Orange blackberry wine. It's like a Capri Sun after your soccer game. It's a light roast. This is roasted to date. Yesterday, actually. So roasted to order. So as soon as you place your order, they will roast it. The guy's story, real quick, if I could highlight this, I'll pull this up. It's a very, very inspiring bio that he's got on why he started the business and kind of where he's at. So, like I said, they're local. They're out here in Owasso. Gregrin, it means wake up in Greek, which is the common language during the first century when the Bible was written. The name combines love for the owner's love for coffee and the love that he has for God's word. He was a full-time student pastor and began roasting coffee as a hobby in 2021. And over time, he kind of built it into an official business in March of 2023. And use code Brews for 10% off your first order. And of course, if you guys have any feedback, comments, things like that, any other guests that you'd like to have on the show, let us know. Contact us. And again, thank you guys for joining.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
See you next time.